and welcome to another special episode, playoff episode, week 2, Motor City Realist. I'm your host, Mike. Got my co-host, Zach Mack. Zach Mack, how we feeling?
We are feeling pumped up, Mike. I mean, first things first, is that a new hoodie? I don't think I've ever seen you on that
No,
show. On this
you know
show with
what?
that
That's what everyone's like. Oh, you're a Lions fan. I was like, come on. I wear my stuff. It's just
hoodie.
not as much. No, there's a lot that's been in the closet, and I'm not a closet Lions fan by any means, but just a lot more attire that I've been getting out as of late. But Zach, overall, man, I'm sure this episode is going to be strictly Lions talk. Maybe we'll touch here and there, but a lot to talk about. Obviously, the Rams, and then the Buccaneers, which that game may be a little close to your heart, but I know who you're rooting for. But Zach, we're getting this episode out a little late. We had a lot going on. Next week I'm going to be out of town. We had to pull you out of the bar to get this episode, man. Just make sure we get it on tap here. So how's your night going?
No, yeah, man. Pretty good. As fiance had a tough week at work this week, so she wanted to have a drink, and you know how it goes. One drink turns into 3, turns into 5, and before you know it, you waste too much time at the bar. And that's just. Yeah. But we got back in time for the episode. That's what's important.
There we go. Absolutely, we made it happen. But overall, man, what a week! What a postseason! I guess it's a postseason, playoffs, as we say it here, going into our second episode of the playoffs. But obviously, we're going to talk heavy on a Rams game. Zach, just overall. General aspect of things, we had our picks and stuff like that. Looking at the game as a whole, is that how you figured it would be? Did you think different things happen? The treatment of Stafford, obviously, we'll get into and all that stuff. But your thoughts on just, we'll dive in. But your thoughts on the overall game?
I mean, yeah, just overall, what a game, right? I mean, you get a 1-point game against Stafford. I've seen some people who covered the game on a professional level saying that it's in the top 5, top 10 games that they've ever covered personally. I guess the atmosphere in Ford Field was electric. Obviously, with both of us being out of towners, we're not obviously for the viewers, we're not at the games. Wish we could be, but I heard that the atmosphere was electric. The fans, I mean, we forced a couple timeouts, crucial timeouts, which I know we'll get into the guts of the game a little bit later. But no, overall, I just think what a game. I mean, honestly, it couldn't have been any better to watch. I didn't think it would be as first half heavy as it was, but still, I mean, you couldn't ask for better, quote unquote cinema to watch on TV.
Yeah, and obviously we talk about our picks, and I talk about my pick 'em that I am, and so badly did I want to take Detroit that week, but I just knew there was so much more into that game. I thought we should win, obviously, but man, I mean, that game was hard enough to watch, let alone being in a pick 'em if I picked Lions. So I took the Bills last week. Not that I didn't believe in Detroit. It's just, but I mean, what a game overall. I mean, a really good game. Granted, the second half we didn't score near the points that we needed to, but it just showed then our defense kind of turned around. So it was almost a kind of complete game. Puka still killed us. I feel like there's that one wide receiver. So I was kind of glad that Philly lost. Not saying that, I just feel like the receivers are faster, and we continue to see our DBs get run by. So I think the Tampa Bay is a better matchup, but you've said it all along, all season. It's hard to beat a team twice. So we'll talk about that. But what's the general consensus? I don't know if you saw the. I mean, obviously we'll talk about the game, but we got to talk about Matt Stafford. Did you see his press conference afterwards? Kind of what they asked him, and basically he said, he's happy for the guys. He didn't mention the city. He didn't, and in the whole treatment, which everyone was just back and forth. Oh, we're not going to boo him. We can't do that. He's like, hey, man. He even said he's the enemy. He's coming to our. What do you expect? We didn't throw things at him. We didn't. But and honestly, to tell you the truth, when he went down, my wife watched the entire game, which she rarely does. She had steak, and she's like, she was so disappointed in Detroit. She was yelling at me like, why are they booing him? I'm like, you just don't understand. Like, you don't understand the situation. But, he went down with that injury. his eyes like rolled back in his head, and I thought, oh man, I don't want to see this. And I can't believe. I mean, I don't know why I was surprised it's Matthew Stafford. I don't know why I was surprised he came back, continued to play a game, played good. I thought he was out, but the treatment of Stafford. Did you think it was fair, crossing the line or not? I'll tell you right away. I thought it was what it was. They booed him when he came out. No big deal. I thought that's what it was. And Frank Ragnow, a bunch of other players, hugged him, totally miss him. But to me, that's football. Stafford said it. But did you feel, as a Lions fan watching that game, did you feel any sort of way?
Like, honestly, I could be totally wrong in this, but I felt like the crowd at Ford Field that booed Matt Stafford was not indicative of the Lions fan base as a whole. And I think that the only reason I think I could be wrong there, because like that's rarely the case. Usually like who shows up at the game does pretty much indicate what the fan base is as a whole. But I really didn't think that. Honestly, I wasn't thrilled with it, but at the same time, like you said, he dubbed himself the enemy, and it's natural instinct for teams to just boo the opposing team whenever they take the field. Like that happens a lot anywhere you go, honestly, regardless of the sport.
Yeah.
So it's hard to tell, like, is that directed at like Stafford as a person, or is it directed at just like he's our opponent today? It's tough to say, but all I can say is that like if I personally was in attendance, I wouldn't be booing him. So I didn't really understand it from that perspective. But
Honestly, to tell you the truth, I don't know. It was, to me, it was, I didn't like tear up or anything, but it was like emotional. Like I, I felt sick to my stomach right before the game started when he came out. Like I just felt like and it's so stupid. Like to think like, for one, you've got this team that you've rooted for years and years and years that's never won, and there was a great perspective. Stafford led this team. He was the best thing that ever happened to this team, but he never got us over the hump. And
yeah,
now, literally, he is there to stop us from getting over that hump. And it was such like I was so torn. I think that's why I was. But I know what you're saying. Like, you're gonna boo, but I mean those boos were heavy. Those boos were really
yeah,
heavy, and it
yeah,
was
yeah,
pretty consistent. So yeah, I was surprised by that. Did I get upset? No. And his family even embraced it. I think that his daughters had sweatshirts or jackets on that said, you know, uh, I think it was like born in Detroit, raised in LA, or something along those lines. So there's a lot of ties, obviously.
yeah.
It'll be interested to see, fast forward here. Um, I hope this doesn't like put a bad taste in his mouth. I mean, and here we are. We're talking about we beat him. No big deal. But I would love to see him. Granted, he won a Super Bowl, but I would love to see him retire a Lion.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because, well, twofold. One is I think it's a little different because he has won a Super Bowl with LA. I think maybe that plays into it. There's probably a little bit more emotional love for him if he hadn't won a Super Bowl yet. And it's like you said, he's there to keep us from getting over the hump. But at the same time, if this was him trying to win his first Super Bowl, then I think people are a little more on his side. But since he's already won one, that's out the door. But, just overall, I think it's tough, like you said. Like they showed like all his daughters before the game, and that's a part of it that, like you said, gets you emotional. You're like, man, this is a guy that was with us for so long, but never got us over the hump, and now we're over the hump, and I don't know, like all of that. And I touched on it last week. Like where the part of this that was missed was the Jared Goff part of it, and I don't know if like that was ever touched on as at length like it was on the Stafford side of it. But he made his remarks at the end of the game. I think that's just like in the heat of it. Like he's probably, he's obviously disappointed that he lost. Like his objective out there was to go win the game, and he didn't achieve that. And so he's pissed, and so he's like, I'm happy for the players. And a lot of people interpret that as like throwing shade at the shade at the fans or the city or even the organization as a whole, dumbing it down to just the players. But I don't know. I think it's really just him like trying to deal with his emotions of losing a high energy game. Like that's in a tough place,
And so, I'm going to throw this right at you because we've talked quite a bit in past about Jared Goff. We'll transition into Goff. What he did, the game ball that Campbell gave to him pretty much said, you belong, blah, blah, blah. I mean, are you, at this point, are you a Goff? You've never not been a supporter, but you've always kind of been back and forth. Like, is Goff your guy?
Yeah. I'll admit I've been on the fence about Goff, but he's he's proven that he's a warrior. And here's what I'll say. I was never the biggest supporter of Stafford either. I was never in the camp that like we got to get rid of Stafford to win.
Well,
I
you need
thought
to
those guys
show me. Like, if you're going to be the guy, you got to show it to me.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was never the guy that was like we got to ship Stafford to be good, but I was also never the guy like Stafford could win us a Super Bowl. I was kind of on the fence about him as well. But to that point, Jared Goff has already done what Stafford didn't do. And I know that's not all on the quarterback. Obviously, our team is much better and our coaching is much better and all of that from top to bottom is much better than it was before. But as far as the quarterback position goes, I have a lot more trust in Jared Goff now than I did week 1 of this season. And even week 1 of the season, I had a lot of trust in him because he went on that interception-less streak to end last season. So, I would just say I don't know where you're at. You've been pro Goff most of the season, I think. So where do you stand on this guy now?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, you don't. I think at this point, the dude's proven it. I was on him all season. I'm here. The dude's going to get a contract, but he's not going to get overpaid like these quarterbacks set the market. And he's still 28, I believe. So there's still a lot of time. Hooker's there. They eased him along. I'm not saying this is like an Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love situation, but there's no need to throw somebody out there. This is this is what it's all about. Bring these guys along. The offense is humming. Really, I don't know outside of some expiring contracts, different things like really what we need to do offensively differently. Obviously we're going to look on the defensive side of the ball, but really happy with Goff. He's I mean he's for the quarterback. It's funny. So I'm kind of all over the place here, but I don't know if you've seen this. So basically, the LA Ram fan base is in uproar all week. They cannot talk about how much they hate Detroit. And we'll talk about
Really?
obviously the hit Kirby Joseph, Tyler Higbee. Basically, that's what it's all about. There's one guy that is just. I was trying to get some screenshots, but I was too late to do it. But this guy just will not stop talking about Detroit, and he says he's done and he's over. He's not going to mention it, but he continues to go on. Basically, he continues to talk about how dirty we are, all this yada yada yada. But Goff, for the question, yes, I'm all in Goff. We're gonna give him some money. No real changes on offense. It's nice to see Jameson Williams become, I wouldn't say a possession receiver, but they're using him more early, getting him involved. He's not necessarily just streaking down the field. So there's a lot of value there. They're getting on the same page. I mean, you can't say enough about that. The running back committee. I mean, both of these guys. It looks like they play them one drive, pull them. The other guy plays a drive. They stay fresh. These guys are just. I mean, everything's clicking. But we were texting back and forth. That was the drive that we talked about. We got the ball. There had to be a clean drive, go right down the field and score. And that's exactly where Goff is at his best. Is if he gets out there, he's not pressed. He doesn't have to make reasons. I'm not saying he's played really all that bad. We talk about the interception streak that he's on forever, and then he had a few in a row, and he was just kind of overthinking it. But man, I mean, I'm excited about this team, and I'm actually excited about this week. But I mentioned the Kirby Joseph hit. He was a part of the T.J. Hawkinson hit a couple weeks ago. What's your thoughts on that? I don't know if you've really paid much attention to it or not, but the Rams fan base is literally saying he's the dirtiest player in the world. C.J. Gardner-Johnson came out on his behalf and said, literally, I mean, what do you want us to do? Like real time, you either go low or you go high and get a penalty. So basically, and this is where the realist of us, unbiased, do you think something like that, going low, hitting at the knees, is a dirty hit?
I think it's It's funny because I watched some clips today of it was a couple years ago of guys in the NFL kind of reacting to the rule changes on this type of thing where defenseless receivers and all of that and how it's pretty much on the defense's responsibility to protect an offensive player at the expense of protecting himself, which is, crazy in the mind of a defensive player. That's what they're all trying to preach, is that, if it's so hard, because like the quarterback throws the ball, a better ball, into a position where he's not extended and his knees aren't hanging out there for you to hit, then it's a different hit. And that's so tough. So no, obviously, I'm not on social media, so I didn't hear any of this, and I'm shocked to hear that the Rams fans are like this about this kind of stuff. But stuff like that, I think it's so much more bang bang than people think watching at home.
Exactly.
That people think it's easy to adjust how you tackle, and it's really not. Yeah. So I think that leaves it tough for the defensive player, honestly, in a situation like that.
On the flip side, and I'm not even going to play devil's advocate, but basically we could pretty much say, even a quarterback as good as Stafford. Granted, he's getting flushed around the pocket, but he's supposed to put it where he's going to protect his receivers, right? Basically, your quarterback's supposed to throw. I mean, you see swing passes, you see all these passes where the quarterback just lays you out to dry, and you just look at him like, what the hell? And situation like this, somebody crossing over the middle, something like that, like, okay, your safety wants to lay the big hit. Absolutely. That's what they're here for. They want to jar the ball. But nowadays, the NFL, you can't do that, because if you come anywhere above the chest and you even come contact with, their helmet, it's a penalty and it's game over, basically moves them down the chain. So you got to go low, especially these big receivers. And I'm not justifying an injury. Obviously, we don't want that, but I mean, that's exactly what I say. In real time, I mean, these seconds, these plays are 3-4 seconds long, and throwing a ball is 0.2 seconds to a receiver, and it's bang bang, and there's no intent, and it's not like they celebrate.
Tackling is milliseconds.
To me, it blows my mind that this conversation. Granted, maybe it's because it was considered a repeat offender, but he's around the ball. Kirby Joseph has got a nose for the ball. He's proven that. So that's something that I wanted to mention, because yes, the Rams fan base is pretty. I shouldn't say significant. They're out there talking about this. So, but yeah, there you go. You got the stat line there on the bottom. Obviously, our big boys played a nice role in that game. In Goff, only missed 5 passes. So that was the game that we were talking about. The mistake free. We didn't have to throw up 30 times. We had a good running game. Amra obviously did his thing, 110 yards. But anything else that really stood out from that game that you want to mention, or anything specific?
One thing that I thought was huge, and luckily it didn't come back to bite us, but we talked about, and we're realists, so we're not people that are going to blame the refs a whole lot, but we breezed over the situation in Dallas, which thank God they got exposed for not being we exposed them essentially in week 16, and the refs didn't let us expose them. So they got exposed by Green Bay instead, which is fine. But going into half, man, that third down, they called a false start on us, which is clearly an offsides by LA.
Yes.
That is like, and the reason I want to harp on this is because that is a crucial moment in the game where you're driving down at half to potentially take a 2-possession lead. You turn it over to the other team, and luckily they didn't drive down on us and score and take the lead before halftime. But they very likely could have, and especially with them getting the ball in the second half, like that's a huge turning point. And I just don't know how the refs can miss something like that on a stage like this. Like, to me, that was going into half. I'll be honest, I was dejected. I was like, this cannot be. We're gonna get jobbed by the refs again. That was such an obvious. It wasn't even like that was not a bang bang. That was obvious offsides. And they called false start on us. Obviously, we instead of going for it, we punt, blah, blah, blah. They get the ball. But if they call the right call, we get a first down. We're still driving, and we potentially take a 2-possession lead going into half, and the game doesn't end up as close as it should have been, or as close as it ended up being.
And it's funny because I think there's going to come a time where those plays are going to be called in where, New York can challenge those plays where they can say, no, we made a mistake, we need to change it. I mean, it's getting to the point where
It's got to get to that point. Yeah.
it's because basically, obviously, you got replay, and basically they got Dean Blandino or somebody in the box, and they go to the rules and they say, hey, what do you think? And most of the times they're like, yeah, that's a missed call. So these guys are on real time are saying, so basically, why can't they do this and I think, like you said, we ended up punting it, which I was really, really happy with a lot of Campbell's play calling, his decisions, because I didn't want him to get too cute to get us in situations. But one thing that we haven't mentioned is Bagley, a 50-yarder, over 50-yarder field goal. I think he's
Yeah.
only 45% in his career. That was a huge field goal that I don't think really anybody talked about, because that
Won us the
was
game.
basically, yeah. I mean, you're talking, that was early on, granted, but I mean, the confidence to put him out there, and not necessarily, we're accustomed to these fourth down, go for different things, or trick plays, but I like seeing that confidence, get him out there. And we made a decision early in the season, or I mean, I'm sorry, late in the middle of the season, to switch out kicker, which to me, all right, they had something. So, and it's, knock on wood, worked out so far.
Yeah. Okay. And there's a couple other things I want to touch on this game. Amon-Ra St. Brown, obviously, we got it on the bottom line there. He had 7 catches for 110 yards, and all 7 of his catches went for first downs, which was huge. Averaged 15.7 yards per catch. But averaging more was Josh Reynolds, 5 catches, 80 yards, averaging 16 yards a catch. And we didn't even talk about this last week, but he also is an ex-Ram. How did you feel about – because I feel like he had some clutch catches and played a big role in that game.
It's funny. So basically, I was explaining to my wife, the whole situation, and obviously she knew Stafford. And I said, well, Stafford was traded for Goff. Like, her thing was, like, obviously Stafford, the Stafford situation, Kelly Stafford, the family. So then I told her about Goff. Then she's like, oh, okay. And then as soon as Reynolds called a ball, I was like, well, that's the next Ram too. She's like, are you kidding me? Like, I was like, yeah, there's a lot of people that have stake in this, like, and I don't know, they didn't talk about him,
Right,
at
they didn't.
all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, what more incentive do you have to go out and beat your previous team that, it sounds like, obviously, you're not going to hear anything bad, but it sounds like Goff and McVay kind of kindled everything, and they said everything, or McVay said everything right. So, he's happy for him. So which we talked about it all week, it was Stafford, but low key it was Goff, and nobody really talked about it. Nobody talked about it. The media didn't talk about it. Here on there, they compared the two, blah blah blah. But it was not. So, I mean, the thing that's crazy about this is Goff had a great season, but is this like the game at this point? Like, we're already gelling, we're doing well. Is this the game that, like, gives him the confidence to, like, do we make a deep run? And
Man,
I
I
should say
think
deep, but I mean, we're really only 2 games away from the NFC Championship.
Yeah, honestly, I think that's a good point. I mean, because I've been watching sports talk shows a lot this week, actually, because it's my last week without a job. I start my new job next week, but so I've been watching a lot of TV. But still, nobody is talking about this guy. And you're right. If we beat the Bucks and we're in the NFC Championship, maybe they start talking. But it might take getting to the Super Bowl before these guys start talking about Jared Goff. And honestly, I think that's where he thrives. So when he's not in the media, when he's not being talked about, he's an under the radar achiever. I think it suits him best to be where he's at as far as.
So you're like this. Speaking of media, there was a few people that came out with the basically rating the 8 quarterbacks that are left, where they rank 1 through 8. Where do you think they have Goff?
If I had to guess where the media had Goff, let me think who we got left. We got Purdy, Lamar, Baker. I would say they got him like 6.
8. 8 out of 8.
They got him 8?
Yes. So they got Baker right in front of him at 7. Obviously Lamar up there, but I was just laughing like,
my God.
And let me tell you this. So a lot of the media that is putting these polls out are Rams fans. So that's what I love about it. So how are you going to rate a guy that just beat you, that came from your, like, you talk about bitter fans Like
Yeah.
I've never and listen, we've dealt with losing all our lives, and I mean we're on a high, we're winning, but like you talk about some of the most bitter fans. I didn't realize that the Rams were like this.
Yeah, that means they have Jordan Love ahead of
Yeah,
Jared
Purdy,
Goff.
Baker.
Goff is Bendo. These guys are crazy. All right. Okay. The other thing I want to touch on before I go off on that tangent, because that's absolutely absurd, um, is the defense. You've been a big, especially on this show. You've been a big guy on defense. You've been hyping up the defense all year, and Chris Collinsworth touched on it in the broadcast that a big difference in this game was the Lions were scoring touchdowns in the red zone, and the Rams were being held to field goals. And as much as we like to point to the Badgley field goal being a difference maker, another big difference maker was forcing field goals and not touchdowns in the red zone. What did you like about what we saw from the defense
Which I'm
in
glad
that game?
you said that, because I totally didn't bring this up, because basically our red zone defense has actually been one of the best defenses in the entire league. So I guess it just goes to show that, wow, when we get down there, and it was crazy because basically towards the end of the game when we got in the red zone, I was kind of like comfortable. I was like, okay, when the team was in the red zone, when the Rams were in the red zone, I was like, okay, maybe give them a field goal, no big deal. But like, I really like the way that it's crazy because we've been like this, been like this. The defense is good first 4 games, then they have like a record pace, next 4 games, then they're good, and then it's horrible. But like I feel like Aaron Glenn, like basically, I can almost tell you every time third and long, third and minimal, dude, we're dialing up the blitz, and I feel like that's been the X factor late in the season. We've been able to our defensive backs are getting more sacks, are getting more pressures. They're changing the way the trajectory of the ball. But yeah, I really like that, bringing that up. Obviously he got the field goal, but these guys have buckled down, and Brian Branch. There was probably a few calls. There was, again, we're talking about Rams fans. There's a few calls, that I like on both sides of the ball. You let the players play. If it's not blatant, they can trip each other up, they can hold each other a little bit. But there was that Brian Branch, on Cooper Kupp in the back of the end zone that I was like kind of clinching, but it was, and then there was C.J. Gardner Johnson, a different one, and you could tell the guys were kind of looking for the flag. But the one thing I will say about this referee is they let them play. They were consistent across the board. So I like that. Our defense is really buckled down. Obviously, that's going to be a big thing for the Buccaneers because while I'm not like scared of that team, which I don't want to, get overexcited, Mike Evans just kills everybody in the red zone. You talk about one of the best wide receivers that probably isn't talked about, Mr. 1000. I mean, he continues to get 1,000-yard seasons. He's one of those guys that I think I said it last week. He can have 3 catches for 3 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, one of the biggest changes in our defense as opposed to previous years is our tackling. And I think that comes into play in the red zone. If a guy catches a flat or a screen, at the 5, we're tackling him at the 3. And I think that's huge as opposed to letting him get in the end zone. And that's a lot different. But I think that's we could transition right into this Bucs game since you mentioned Mike Evans. And sticking with the defense, I think you touched on it. We said going into that Rams game that this is what we were going to give up. Is you got Puka Nacua going for over 100 yards, and he sets the rookie record, I think, for receiving yards in a play. And we knew that was going to happen. That's what the Lions do. The top receiver gets buttloaded yards every week. So we're expecting the same from Mike Evans this week, probably. But we've shown that we can still win games doing that.
Yeah.
Do you think we can do that against the Bucs? Because I'll just say this right now. I think we can. I think we shut down the run enough to that Rashad White, who has bust onto the scene and has exceeded expectations, I think, as far as running backs go. I think we can shut him down, which allows for the passing game not to open up so much. What are your thoughts?
Of all people, Rex Ryan, they talked to him last week, and they said, talking about the weapons of the Rams, and everyone was hyping up Kyrie Williams, blah, blah, blah. And Rex Ryan came out and said Kyrie Williams is having a great season. Low key, he's gonna run. Blah blah blah. He said not so fast. Detroit's defense is gonna shut him down, and that's what happened. And I think the same thing. It's the same game plan going into this game,
I think so too.
but I feel like it's a way better matchup because they don't necessarily have the outside speed that the Rams had. So really, I mean, Baker is still, he can scramble and get outside the pocket, so maybe he'll make a few plays there, but he's not necessarily that guy anymore. Um, but I feel like, yeah, I mean, in Mike Evans early, when we played him early in the season, he didn't even have a great game. Granted, do I think we're going to hold him to 6 points? No. I think it's going to be a way better game than that. In previous, I think we've talked about it. And I know there's a little, being there in Tampa and stuff like that. You watch them, you're familiar with that team. Like,
Yeah.
I like Baker. I like to see what he's doing. I mean, Tampa Bay was left for dead. Tom Brady left. Nothing was gonna happen. They signed Baker for, hey, let's throw a quarterback out there. And now you're talking about, okay, so this is a great, because I mean, you're talking about a team that had nothing to lose, and now here we are, and Baker's riding, and this is what he does. You look at the Browns, and it's like, you know, the Browns, look at what they left Baker again, left Baker for dead, and here he is taking Tampa Bay. So while I'm not like overlooking this game, I am more comfortable with this game. I think it's a way better matchup, but I feel like we shut down the run, the same game plan overall.
Yeah, I think. I mean, like you said, it's like the Lions are almost adopting this. Okay, well, first I'll say that when they played the Bucks the first time, Baker was not on his game, right?
Yeah.
And we talked about that. I was at that game. It was, you just didn't see the typical, and I don't know if they were intimidated. I touched on this in our previous episode. There were a ton of Lions fans at that game, and that might have thrown the Bucks off a little bit. I don't know, but Baker was not on his game, and it really almost felt like not a fair fight that game. Because honestly, I don't think the Lions played very well that game either, but scraped out the 20-6 win. But it's almost like the Lions adopt this game plan where, like, we don't care if your number one receiver goes off on us, because if we shut down everything else, that is not going to be enough for you to beat us. And it's working so far. I mean, we saw it with Justin Jefferson. He absolutely torched us. And CeeDee Lamb torched us. And we would have won that game if it wasn't for the refs. And
I feel like it's the total opposite of Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick will say, I know your number one receiver, and he's not going to get anything. We're going to shut him down. You can do whatever you want. Where we're just saying, we'll let your number one receiver do whatever he wants, but the rest of your team's going to get shut down. And it is exactly, not to cut you off, but it is exactly what you're saying. Like, literally, I mean, every game this year, the number one receiver has torched us.
Yeah, and it's almost like we just got so much confidence that we can shut down the run, which we've seen over and over and over again, and we can shut down those secondary options, and most importantly, we can shut down that tight end option. And yeah, throw 150 yards on our head to your number one receiver. Because if you throw 150 yards to them, we shut down everything else, you're going to end up with 180 yards or 190 yards total, and that's not going to be enough to beat us. And it's very interesting. Like, it'll be interesting to see if they can take that and carry it through the rest of the playoffs. But it worked against the Rams, barely skated out there with a 1-point win. Can it work against the Bucks? Like you mentioned earlier, I love the phrase, it's hard to beat a team. It's hard to beat the same team twice in a season. And I firmly believe that. And the Lions are going to have to do it this week, which almost to me makes it feel like a tougher battle than last week's battle against the Rams.
See, I take that in consideration. I just feel like it maybe, this will bite me in the ass for saying it, but I feel like this is not, like, I don't want to say we're comfortable going into this game, but I feel like the stakes aren't as high because there's not as much, I shouldn't say riding on it, but I don't know. Maybe I'm worrying myself. Maybe now I'm talking about it, like, hey, maybe we're not putting enough focus on this, but I don't know what's going on. But I just feel like with Stafford situation, Goff, there's so much where, but I also feel like I said, momentum's going. They know this is, I think our team now, the coaching staff that we have, they're starting to get together. I feel like that they're going to make adjustments. It's not going to be the same. Ben Johnson's not going to dial up the same stuff. Aaron Glenn, I think even we're talking that was week 6. The defense has been way more aggressive. I think we got quite a few sacks on Baker early in the season. So they're going to dial that up. People are getting healthy again. We talk about that all the time. So I'm excited about this game. But you want to get into some predictions, or you got anything else on this specific?
No, I don't think I have. I don't think I have anything on this game. Obviously, last game, like you said, week 6, that was in Tampa. This one's in Detroit. Not much weather difference because Detroit plays inside. So, give me. I think Tampa. I think Tampa will be a little bit more on their game. I will say, the reason we didn't record last night is I was at the Bolts game, and Baker was there.
Was he chugging beers?
No. I was looking for him, but no, he wasn't chugging beers. But I did say to my fiance, I was like, shouldn't he be in Detroit, like warming up, getting ready for this game?
Yeah,
so I don't know when they fly out, but
probably tonight.
But anyways, I was like, no, I was joking around. I was like, yeah, we should be fine. This guy's at a hockey game. No, but I think the Bucks will be a little bit more on point. They'll score a little bit more. They'll score more than 6 points. But I also think the Lions can be ready. That's a tough defense. Give me. I'm still going with the boys. I think we make it to the NFC Championship. Give me the Lions at. Give me 29-20.
I like it, man. So I'm on the Bucks for 20 points. I think they're gonna hang 20, but I think like the Lions. I think we're gonna continue to open it up, continue to do things. I think we're hanging 30, 38. 38-20 Lions. That's what I want to see. Because I feel like you gotta get all the tricks out of the bag. We gotta make sure we're executing, because as crazy as it is, beating Green Bay early in the season, then beating us, or San Francisco. I think that game is going to be a shootout. So whoever we go into the national championship, I'm sorry, NFC championship, whew, man, that's going to be a game right there. I don't want to say that's where it stops, but then that game will definitely make me nervous. But like I said, I feel like I'm okay with this game. I feel like we should have some offense. I feel again they're gonna hang 20 on us, but let Mike Evans do his thing, whatever. But overall, man, just a clean game. Looking forward to it. But yeah,
do you think this week is a more full 60-minute? Or I say 60 minutes. That's hockey. Is it 60 minutes in football? It's 15, 50. Yeah, 60. Yeah, 60. Yes. It is 15, 15, 15, 50. Yeah, 60. Do you think it's a more full 60 than it was against LA, where it almost seemed like kind of hung on in the second half?
Well, that's what I said.
You're giving them 38 points. Are we scoring?
Points, yeah, we scored all our points first half against the Rams, and we kicked the field goal to keep us in. Basically.
Yeah. So you're giving us 38 points. Are we scoring points in the second half in that case?
Yeah. I think I mean, again, you're talking about. I think they said that the viewership on this game. Granted, obviously, this isn't even like tickets sold, but viewership on the game last week was more than the most in the NFL since the Super Bowl last year. And I don't know if you've seen what Campbell said, but Campbell pretty much said that if you aren't on our bandwagon, at this point, there's no room. So stay the fuck off of it, basically.
Yeah, I can see that.
So, yeah, I just feel like, the city starved for it. We continue to see it. I mean, what a feeling to say, hey, here we are. We're going 2-3 rounds deep in the playoffs. We'll see what happens. NFC Championship, but 38-20, that's where I got us. But yeah, I think consistency. I think we're gonna spread out the points, and I think it's going to be a good game. And I'm not gonna lie, like I love me some Baker, but really looking forward to this game.
Yeah, I honestly I like this because make no mistake about it, I'm go Lions all the way, 100%. I'm not rooting for the Bucks at all. But either way, whoever wins this game, I have a team to root for in the NFC Championship. I feel like a lot of times in the past, I've just been rooting against somebody in the NFC Championship. So, yeah, at least this year. But, 100% hoping it's the Lions. I think it's going to be the Lions. That's where we got our predictions. We're lined up. Are we making predictions for the rest of the league, or are we jumping into hockey right now?
Yeah, no. Let's do a quick prediction real quick, because
we don't have as many.
I did place my bet tonight, and I took all the expected winners. So I took Buffalo, Detroit, the Ravens, and I took San Francisco.
So, okay, so you took all the favorites.
Yes.
I think I'm going. It's so tough for me to go against CJ Stroud at this point because
Oh, I love him, but I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. And again, I didn't want to mention it, but we talk about playing a team twice.
yeah,
Baltimore Ravens. So I
yeah.
don't want to. But I think the Ravens, man, they're peaking at the right time. But we'll see what happens.
I feel it in my bones. I got this vibe right now. Give me the Texans, all right? Because here's why. It's CJ Stroud. The Browns were one of the best defenses this year, and he did not give a shit. He torched them. He torched the Browns. I mean, obviously Joe Flacco helped him out through a couple pick sixes. I think couple, right?
Yeah,
yeah. So inflated the score a little bit. But give me the Texans in that game because I'm so sick of the Ravens. Harbaugh's already won one championship. Get him out of here. But give me, I'm gonna take the Niners. I want so badly for the Packers to win so that we can host another playoff game if we win. I think that would be so sick. But I don't think they could do it. The Niners didn't miss a beat, unlike the Ravens. So give me the Niners, give me the Lions, like I already said, and give me the Chiefs. I'm gonna go against you on this one as well.
That was the one that I was having a hard time with, but I think I'm leaning. It's only 2.5 right now. I was leaning, and Buffalo's getting dumped on again with snow. I don't know if you know that it snows in the Midwest. You know, on that south.
I've heard about it.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. But no, I mean, that game in Kansas City was cold as shit as well. But look, I just can't go against Mahomes, and in a close game like this, I think Gabe Davis is out. Not that he's mattered. He was on my fantasy team and he screwed me. I finally had to sit him halfway through because he was just he'll put up donut, and then drop 22 points, and then 24 points, and then donut, 18 points. And it's like but anyways, he's out. So one less weapon for Josh Allen. I just think cold weather's not going to affect Kansas City. Give me Kansas City. They're more experienced. They're going to get the job done.
So one big upset, obviously, CJ Stroud.
I want the Bills to win.
And Kansas City. So there you go. So I like it. But before we get out of here, Zach, how we looking? Little Red Wings talk. What's going on with the Red Wings?
Yeah, so killing it in 2024, if we're being honest. 5-0-1 to start the year. Had that overtime loss against the Oilers, who are on their own 12-game win streak. So that's not anything to hang our head about. 5-game road win streak. Larkin's got a 6-game point streak. They're playing Carolina on the road tonight for a chance to extend that road win streak. And actually, let me check the score because they started. They're okay. Looks like we got 7 minutes left. They're down 3-2. So got some work to do in that one. But that's how it was last game. They scored, I think, the last 5 minutes, and they won that thing in overtime with Larkin. So the boys are picking things up, especially defensively in 2024. It's looking like it might be the year of Michigan sports. You know, we start out with, I know you're an Ohio State fan and I'm an MSU fan, so it hurts us both to say this, but it starts out with the Wolverines and they win the Natty, but the Lions are on a run. Red Wings are making things interesting. As a matter of fact, since we last recorded, the Pistons took a W.
They matched their win total all season. So.
Oh, crazy. It's like the Lions won a playoff game in Ford Field and all of Detroit sports was like rejuvenated. Crazy.
Building new buildings, dilapidate. I mean, the city is just back.
Do you have that's all I got though for as far as hockey goes. We're still in the race. We took a wild card spot, but then I think the Maple Leafs won last night, so they took it back from us. It's kind of a flip-flop thing. We were in a divisional spot, now we're in a wild card spot, blah, blah, blah. It goes back and forth. You know, we're about halfway through the season, so a lot to sort out there. But that's about it hockey-wise. Anything you want to touch on Roundtable? I know Alabama named a new head coach.
That's really all I was to say. The landscape of college football is changing quite a bit. Obviously
Bill O'Brien was going to your Ohio State Buckeyes, I saw.
Yes, they did. They didn't waste any time. Alabama didn't. Washington, had that nice run, and their coach jumped ship quickly, and his players were not very happy with him. But this is what it is. This is what the college football is.
Where did he go? I didn't hear about that.
Washington's he's at Alabama. He went over to Alabama.
I literally saw it on the ticker tonight that
Yes,
Alabama named their coach, and
yeah,
I never know who that guy. He was
yes. So
Washington's coach.
yeah, so basically he jumped over there. But yeah, overall, and then I mean, there's still an opportunity that Harbaugh is going to jet. You know, he had
Yep.
his interviews. So the landscape, like I
You
said,
guys,
and you talked about Ohio State. You know, Ryan Day's still there, but a lot of pressure. They named offensive coordinator, which is weird because Brian Hartline was the coordinator, but Ryan Day still called plays. So yeah, changes there. But
so do you think that I got a question to ask you on that because you guys also got Kansas State's quarterback I saw.
yes,
Um, but do you think that puts even more pressure on Ryan Day, where they're like, if you don't perform, ASAP, then they're just in line to promote Bob to head coach? Do you think
yeah,
that's the case or no?
I do definitely think he's on a short leash this year. I don't know necessarily that would be like mid-season thing. We definitely don't
Right.
have the schedule that Michigan has this year. They got Texas, they got USC, they got a tough schedule. So if I wouldn't be surprised if Michigan was barely above 500, which AJ McCarthy and depending on what Harbaugh does, that team,
Yeah.
that's no slight to them. They just have an outstanding, tough schedule. Ohio State not so much. So definitely Ohio State's gotta improve, gotta do better. So that transfer because we had so basically we had Washington State's quarterback coming in, Cam Ward, and then he decided he's out. He's going to Miami. And then obviously we got Kansas State's quarterback, which coming in, he's kind of more fits the mold. I think he's like 6'4", 6'5", like 240, kind of a mobile quarterback, can throw quite a bit. So he kind
Yeah.
of fits the mold. Then obviously we got some good recruits. We've got some. Obviously our receiving core continues to stay. It seems like we've done a lot better in the portal than we have actually recruiting, as far as when I say Ohio State wise. But the landscape overall of college football, the NIL, I've talked about it in the past. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I just don't like it. I get it. I mean, I get it, but it's just, literally, I think there's a tight end for Miami that just came back he just got granted his eighth or ninth year for Miami,
Jesus.
and he's going to play. So basically, he was in the draft class of like Burrow and all those guys. So basically, all these guys are playing in the NFL, and this guy's granted another year in college football. I don't know how it works, but whatever.
Oh my
So,
God.
but yeah, overall, it's there's a lot going on. It's exciting to have Lions football this late to really not have to focus in on college, especially after a
Yeah.
bad year for Ohio State and Michigan State. So, but yeah, there's going to be a lot to talk about in the next couple months.
Yeah. Plus with the expanded college playoff coming next year with the 12 teams, it's going to be, and Nick Saban not being a part of that it's going to be so much more interesting to
Yeah,
see how these teams are decided and all that, and especially with all the shakeup. But all that aside, I think we've wrapped it up for this
yeah,
episode. If you guys joined us live, we appreciate it. If we were mentioning the bottom line ticker and all that for you that's listening on the podcast, feel free to, if you can catch us. You never know what day we're on, but we're live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. But we also appreciate you guys joining in on the podcast. We'll let Mike take you out.
yeah. Like I said, no episode next week. I'll be out of the country unless Zach snags a guest. Unless he's
Yeah,
going
we'll see. We'll
somewhere.
see.
I
I
don't
might
know.
try. If the
Maybe.
Lions win, I'm definitely gonna try. Definitely
Oh
gonna try.
yes, absolutely. But no, overall, a lot to look forward to. I feel like a great matchup. But hard to believe we could to be talking about NFC championship. So basically,
Oh
it's funny.
man,
We're flying to Mexico on Sunday. So basically, we're hitting the ground. We're supposed to hit the ground in Mexico at 2 p.m. And it's like a 15-minute drive from the airport to our resort. Basically, if
nice.
we get through customs, everything, perfect world. What are the odds that I actually land at 2 o'clock and get to the bar at 3 o'clock to watch the opening kickoff? So that's where we're
You'll
at. I
have it
know
on there.
my wife knows that I'm stressing about this. So
You'll have to text me actually when you get there because I've been to a resort in Cancun and one of the bartenders at the resort was a big RedWings fan and I was wearing my RedWings stuff and he put it on and I took a picture with him. I'll have to send a picture to you sometime.
there
It's
you
pretty
go.
sweet. But
I'll see
yeah,
if I
you
can
have to
find
let me
it
know where
on.
you
So,
land. Yeah.
and hopefully I make it back and the cartel doesn't take us. So
Yeah. Always cross our fingers on that one.
Yes, but no. Anyways, appreciate you guys joining us tonight. Like Zach said, we're live on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Find us at Belly Up Sports YouTube. The podcast will be out right after this recording. Basically, we'll have that out, and then we'll see what goes on next week. But on behalf of myself and Zach, we appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. Looking forward to this weekend, and we'll see where we go from here. Hopefully, have another